Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. If you like the show, folks, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it, and it helps people find the show. Please give us 5 stars. We'd really appreciate it. If you don't want to give us 5 stars, you want to give us 2 stars and say what we could do better. Always appreciate constructive criticism. What am I watching? I thought I'd go into a little bit of that. I've been watching Barney Miller on Prime Video. I remember that show from when I was real young. But going back and watching that. Also rewatching Lost, and my wife is watching it for the first time, so we're about halfway through the first season of that. And that's been real interesting to go back and kind of watch with an eye for having seen it before and noticing new things. And I really have a better appreciation for it now than I think that I did when it first came out. And before we get started, I just want to send out my condolences to the friends, fans, and family of Jeff Gaylord, the Missouri Tiger, who passed away this past week, and our condolences to them. Today we look at Extreme Rules 2016 from the WWE. Extreme Rules 2016 took place on pay-per-view and on the WWE Network on May 22nd, 2016 from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. There were 15,963 in attendance. We start out with the Then Now Forever logo and then the Extreme Rules intro. Michael Cole welcomes us to Extreme Rules. He, JBL, and Byron Saxton are our announcers for the evening. We start out with a Tornado Tag Team match, the Usos versus Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. The German announce team and the Spanish announce teams are introduced. The Usos attack Gallows and Anderson in the aisle. Jimmy and Jay double team Anderson. They both splash Gallows in the corner. They battle on the outside. Anderson and Gallows attack Jimmy, and Jay launches himself over the top rope onto Gallows and Anderson. Jay goes up top and hits Anderson with a crossbody for a 2 count. Gallows runs Jimmy into a corner post. Gallows holds Jay for Anderson to hit him with the boot of doom from the apron. He gets a 1 count. Gallows with some body shots to Jay. Anderson with the bicycle kick to Jay in the corner, and Gallows follows it up with a splash. That gets a 2 count. Gallows knocks Jimmy off of the apron. They set up Jay for the boot of doom again, but Jimmy knocks Anderson off of the top rope, and Jimmy rolls Gallows up for a 2 count. Anderson pulls Jimmy outside and hits a clothesline. Gallows hangs on to Jay's leg, and Anderson hits a knee lift. That gets a 2 count. Anderson holds Jay for Gallows to hit with a big boot, gets another 2 count. They go for the boot of doom again, and Jimmy pulls Anderson out of the ring. The Usos hit Gallows with a double super kick. They go for a double splash, and Anderson pushes Jimmy off. Jay jumps down. He hits a forearm to Anderson and a back elbow to Gallows. Jay misses with a corkscrew off the top rope. Gallows hits the gallows pole on Jay, but Jimmy hits a Samoan drop on Gallows. Anderson with a spine buster to Jimmy that gets a 2 count. All 4 men down. Jay kicks Anderson in the jaw on the outside. He follows it up with a back splash to the barricade. Gallows clotheslines Jay. He throws Jay over the barricade to the aisle. Gallows grabs the ring bell. He goes to hit Jimmy with it, but Jimmy hits a super kick. Jimmy goes up top for a splash, but Gallows moves and Jimmy lands on the ring bell. Anderson and Gallows then hit the Magic Killer to get the pin. We get a Camp WWE ad. Flashback to Rusev attacking Kalisto. Lana is introduced and introduces Rusev. The Portuguese, Russian, and Japanese announce teams are introduced. United States Championship match. Kalisto versus Rusev with Lana. Kalisto starts out with kicks. Rusev misses a kick. Kalisto goes back to kicking the legs. Kalisto pushes off. Rusev misses a clothesline. Kalisto goes for a corkscrew and gets swatted away. Rusev stomps Kalisto down on the mat. Rusev with a brutal corner whip. Rusev with a kick to Kalisto's face. Rusev drops an elbow on Kalisto. Gets a 1 count. A Let's Go Rusev, Rusev sucks, dueling chants go out. Rusev with an Irish whip. Kalisto comes back with a kick to the thigh. Rusev with a big clothesline. Rusev with a bear hug. Kalisto fights to hang on and not pass out. Rusev drops a knee on the back of Kalisto. Rusev puts Kalisto in the torture rack. Kalisto with knees to Rusev's face to get out of the hold. He slips behind Rusev and puts him in a sleeper hold. Rusev starts to fade before slamming Kalisto down backward in a vertical Samoan drop-like hold. Kalisto with a boot to the face and a swinging DDT from the second rope. Kalisto goes back to kicking Rusev in the legs. Kalisto pushed off. Rusev catches him and pitches him behind Rusev. Kalisto lands on his feet and ducks 2 clotheslines and hits the corkscrew. He follows that up with a Hurricane Rana. It gets a 2 count. Rusev ducks a springboard attempt and rushes Kalisto, who pulls the top rope down, and Rusev goes tumbling out. Kalisto with a tope into a Hurricane Rana-like move that runs Rusev into the ring steps. Splash off the top rope gets a 2 count for Kalisto. Kalisto goes for the Salida del Sol, but Rusev pushes off. Kalisto hits a moonsault on Rusev on the outside. He puts Rusev in. He heads up top, but gets caught and slammed on the apron. The referee and officials come over to check on Kalisto, but Rusev pulls him to the center of the ring. He is stomping Kalisto's back and puts on the accolade to become the new United States champion. He raises the championship belt and celebrates with Lana. WWE Network ad for the Shane McMahon Tells All special. WWE Tag Team Championship match. The New Day versus the Vaudevillains. Flashback to the Vaudevillains' attack on the New Day on Raw. New Day does their opening spiel. It goes on way too long, but the crowd enjoys it. Xavier Woods and Aiden English start. Woods with a clothesline and forearms to start. English reverses an Irish whip, but misses a clothesline. Woods comes back with a Hurricane Rana. Then a big shot to English's chest. English with a backdrop. Woods comes back with a shot to the head. English runs Woods into the corner post to the outside. Grimm tagged in and he attacks Woods on the outside. He then throws Woods back in and attacks him with knee drops. He gets a 1 count. English tagged back in. Double punch by the Vaudevillains. That gets another 1 count. English with a fist drop for another 1 count. English with a headlock. English then with a back elbow and he gets a 2 count. Grimm tagged back in with a front face lock. Woods fighting it. He comes back with a right hand and tries to tag Big E. Grimm with a back suplex. Woods with an enziguri. Both men down. English and Big E both tagged in. Big E with a belly to belly and then another one. Grimm comes in and he gets 1 too. Another one for English. A big splash to English. English with a couple of back elbows. English backdrop to the apron. Big E goes to spear him off the apron. English counters with a knee to the face, and Big E driven face first into the mat for a 2 count. Big E and Woods go for the big ending, but Grimm with a shove to break it up. It goes to the outside. Grimm drives Big E into the ring steps. Back in, Grimm tagged in. They hit the whirling dervish. That gets a 2 count. Woods gets his boot up on a Grimm charge. Woods blocks, getting suplexed to the outside, and Big E does a flying unicorn to English through the ropes to the outside. Kofi Kingston gets up on the apron and hits Grimm with an enziguri when the referee was distracted. Woods with a kick, and he pins Grimm for the New Day to retain the titles. Renee Young talks to AJ Styles. He says tonight he will walk out WWE champion, and he will be phenomenal. The new WWE shop commercial. A Money in the Bank pay-per-view ad. Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, and JBL preview the upcoming Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental Championship match. Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental Championship match. The Miz with Maurice versus Kevin Owens versus Cesaro versus Sami Zayn. Zayn starts out by delivering an Olay kick to Owens. Cesaro hits Miz with an uppercut to knock him outside. Zayn with an arm drag. Then another one into an arm bar. Cesaro kips up and gets his own arm drag. Zayn with a shoulder to Cesaro's midsection. Zayn with a head scissors takedown and a drop kick. That gets a 1 count. Zayn with a front face lock. Zayn with an Irish whip. Cesaro catches him in a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Zayn misses a clothesline, but pulls the rope down on a Cesaro charge, and Cesaro falls to the outside. Miz comes from behind to try to roll Zayn up. Zayn hits him with a back elbow. Cesaro catches Zayn with a guillotine on the top rope, and Miz tries to go for the skull-crushing finale. Zayn pushes off, knocking Miz and Cesaro on the apron, and then Zayn clotheslines Miz to the outside. Zayn then does a tope to the outside to take out Cesaro and Miz. Back in, Zayn gets a 1 count on Miz. Miz drives Zayn into the corner and starts to stomp him. Miz with the corner clothesline. He goes up top, but Zayn catches him with an uppercut and goes for a superplex. Cesaro comes from behind and goes for the super power bomb. Owens comes from the outside and hits a forearm to Cesaro and pushes Zayn off and knocks Miz off. Owens then rushes Cesaro shoulder first into the turnbuckle. He then attacks a prone Zayn with punches to the head. He screams, "It's my title," and kicks Zayn. Owens with a short arm clothesline, then a boot to the back of Zayn. He then stomps Zayn's head, punches and chops to Zayn, a boot to Cesaro to knock him back down to the floor. Owens with a cannonball splash to Zayn for a 2 count. Owens knocks Miz off the apron. He then takes Zayn and drives him into Cesaro on the apron to knock him off. Zayn tries to hit Owens, who easily dodges the attempt, yells, "It's my title" again, and kicks Zayn. Owens lifts Zayn into a fireman's carry. Zayn with elbows to get back out. Back and forth. Zayn goes up top. Owens with a shot, and Zayn crouches himself on the top rope. Owens goes up top again, but gets caught by Miz. Miz goes for the superplex. Owens fights out of it with a headbutt. Zayn up top for a superplex attempt on Owens, who blocks it. Headbutt to knock Zayn off. Miz back with some shots. He and Zayn go for the double superplex as Cesaro comes in and does the super power bomb. He gets a 2 count on Miz. He then tries to pin Zayn and gets a 2 count. Cesaro with a delayed vertical suplex to Zayn, who hits him with knees to the head while he is being held up. Zayn hits a blue thunder bomb to Cesaro, but gets hit with a kick to the face by Miz. Miz gets a 2 count on Cesaro. He then gets a 2 count on Zayn. Miz grabs Zayn by the face and knees him. Miz with a corner whip. Zayn with a back elbow to Miz when he charges in. Zayn goes for a kick. Miz catches his leg and starts to go for a superplex. Miz catches his leg and starts to go for a suplex. Cesaro comes from behind and belly-to-back suplexes Miz while he does an exploder suplex to Zayn. All 4 men are down in the ring. Cesaro hits uppercuts to the other 3. He goes to do the big swing on Miz, but Owens hits a German suplex on Cesaro before he can. Owens then clotheslines Miz in the corner. He cannonballs Cesaro in the opposite corner. Then a cannonball to Miz and 1 to Zayn. Owens yells, "It's my title." Owens goes for the pop-up powerbomb on Zayn, who lands on his feet and hits a German suplex to Owens. Zayn then gets hit with an uppercut by Cesaro. Miz then hits the skull-crushing finale on Cesaro. He gets a close 2 count. Miz keeps slapping Cesaro. Cesaro slaps Miz back. Cesaro hits an uppercut off the corkscrew to Miz. Cesaro does the big swing to Miz and goes for a sharpshooter. Miz gets to the ropes, but it doesn't cause a rope break in a fatal 4-way match. Maurice grabs her husband's arms and gets dragged in when Cesaro pulls Miz back to the center. The referee gets her out, but while he is doing that, Miz is tapping and the referee is missing it. Cesaro thinks he's won, so he lets go, and Owens rolls him up for a 2 count. Cesaro throws Owens out of the ring. Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale on Cesaro, but he gets out of it and sets Miz up for the big swing again, but Miz holds on to the ropes. Owens takes the opportunity to splash Miz from the top rope. Cesaro then does the Gotch neutralizer to Owens to get a 2 count before Zayn breaks it up. Cesaro goes for an uppercut to Zayn, who ducks it and turns it into a backslide for a 2 count. Zayn dodges a clothesline and does a rolling sunset flip for another 2 count. A "This is awesome" chant goes out. Zayn goes to charge Cesaro, who hits him with a massive uppercut. Zayn hits a big belly-to-belly overhead suplex to Cesaro in the corner. He sets up for the kick again, but gets cut off by a super kick from Owens. Owens with a pop-up powerbomb to Cesaro. Miz breaks up the pin attempt. Owens runs him into the ringside barricade. Maurice distracts Owens, and Miz does the skull-crushing finale on him on the outside. Miz goes back in to pin Cesaro, but he kicks out on 2. A "This is awesome" chant goes out again. Miz charges Cesaro in the corner, and Cesaro tosses him to the outside, but Zayn is right behind him and hits him with a kick. Owens pulls Zayn to the outside to break up the pin. Zayn runs Owens into a barricade. He is incensed, attacking Owens. While this is happening, Miz gets in the ring to pin Cesaro to retain the title. Renee Young and the panel are shown. Corey Graves says the Fatal 4-Way was unbelievable. Jerry Lawler says Rusev is the real deal, winning the United States title. Booker T says the New Day showed that it was their time. They show highlights from the pre-show and Big Cass taking on both of the Dudley Boys and Dolph Ziggler taking on Baron Corbin in a no DQ match. Corbin with a low blow to gain the advantage and eventually the pin. Preview of the Asylum match coming up. Asylum match. It is a cage match with weapons hanging above the cage. Dean Ambrose versus Chris Jericho. Ambrose attacks Jericho in the corner to begin. He keeps running Jericho headfirst into the corner turnbuckles. Jericho gets away and screams, "Open the door." Ambrose running Jericho's face into the side of the cage. Ambrose with a short clothesline. Ambrose with a forearm. Jericho comes back with the back elbow. Jericho starts to climb the side of the cage, but Ambrose stops him from getting out. Jericho reverses an Irish whip. Ambrose comes back with punches to Jericho. Ambrose runs Jericho into the cage. Ambrose then does it again. Ambrose goes for one of the weapons, but Jericho pulls him off. Jericho climbs for the weapons, but Ambrose follows and they exchange shots on the top rope. Jericho gets a mop. Ambrose grabs it and runs the end into Jericho's ear. He clotheslines Jericho with the mop handle. He then whacks the mop handle over Jericho's back. Ambrose then with a side Russian leg sweep with the mop. He drives the end of the mop into Jericho's face before throwing it away. Ambrose with a corner whip. Jericho gets his boot up on the corner charge. Jericho hits a drop kick from the second rope. That gets a 2 count. Jericho kicks Ambrose in the face. He grabs the mop and hits Ambrose in the face with it. Jericho goes for the barbed wire covered 2x4. Ambrose comes from behind and hits Jericho in the kidneys. He suplexes Jericho off. The referee checks on Jericho, who lands on the back of his head. They both climb up for weapons again. Jericho goes for the barbed wire 2x4. Ambrose goes for the nunchucks. Jericho calls Ambrose an idiot for grabbing nunchucks against his 2x4. Ambrose responds by swinging the nunchucks. Jericho swings the 2x4. Ambrose ducks. Jericho drops the 2x4 and Ambrose attacks him with the nunchucks. Ambrose Irish whips Jericho and hits him with a clothesline using the nunchucks. Ambrose corner whips Jericho, who starts to climb the cage. He goes over, but Ambrose comes and grabs him to keep him from dropping down. Both Jericho and Ambrose are on top of the cage, and Jericho grabs the kendo stick. He uses it on Ambrose, who falls back into the ring. Jericho jumps off the top rope, smashing the stick on Ambrose again. Jericho grabs the nunchucks and hits Ambrose in the back with them. Jericho with a suplex. He gets a 1 count. Jericho kicks Ambrose and climbs the cage. He grabs a leather strap. He straps Ambrose on the back several times. Jericho climbs to the second rope and goes to strap Ambrose again, but Ambrose grabs the strap and drags Jericho off the second rope with it. Ambrose grabs the strap and straps Jericho on his back. He straps him on the front and back several more times. He then hits several right hands to Jericho. Ambrose wraps the strap around the neck of Jericho and goes to Irish whip him. But Jericho reverses it and runs Ambrose hard into the cage. Jericho tells the referee to open the door. The referee says it stays locked, so Jericho calls him an idiot. Jericho starts to climb. Ambrose grabs him. They exchange rights on the top rope. Ambrose stomps down on the top rope, causing Jericho to crotch himself. Ambrose pulls down a fire extinguisher. Jericho going for a straitjacket. He gets it and falls into the ring. Ambrose goes to hit Jericho with the extinguisher. Jericho throws a straitjacket on Ambrose's head and drop kicks him. That gets a 2 count for Jericho. Jericho runs Ambrose headfirst into the cage. Jericho with a springboard drop kick. Jericho punching Ambrose in the head. Jericho putting the straitjacket on Ambrose. Ambrose is fighting it. He gets out of it. He hits Jericho with shots and chops. Ambrose with a running forearm to Jericho in the corner and goes for the running bulldog, but Jericho pushes off. Ambrose comes back with a stiff clothesline. Jericho hits a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. That gets another 2 count. Jericho with a corner whip and goes for the running bulldog, but Ambrose pushes off. Ambrose with a forearm shot and a running bulldog. Jericho and Ambrose fighting on top of a turnbuckle. Jericho knocked off. Ambrose climbs to the top of the cage and hits an elbow to Jericho. That gets a very close 2 count. Ambrose climbs for a plastic 5-gallon bucket. He gets it, opens the bucket, and takes out a sack. He opens it up and pours thumbtacks on the mat. There's nothing worse than thumbtacks in wrestling, folks. They do not go together. Jericho starts to climb the cage. Ambrose grabs him and has Jericho on his shoulders. Jericho rolls through and gets a 2 count. Ambrose scoops Jericho up and goes to slam him on the tags, but Jericho again slips out. Ambrose fights out of being slammed and gets Jericho up again. Jericho rolls out of it again and goes for the walls of Jericho. Ambrose pushes off. Ambrose with kicks and Jericho runs him into the cage again. Jericho does a lion salt, but Ambrose gets his knees up. Ambrose goes for dirty deeds. Jericho counters again. Jericho gets the walls of Jericho on. Ambrose trying to power out. Ambrose grabs the kendo stick and beats Jericho with it until he lets go. Jericho with a corner charge, but Ambrose gets his boot up. Ambrose climbs the turnbuckle to hit Jericho with the kendo stick again, but as he comes off, Jericho sprays him with the fire extinguisher. Jericho hits the code breaker. He gets another close 2 count. Jericho grabs the barbed wire 2x4 and hits Ambrose in the stomach with it. He then hits him in the back. Jericho goes for another code breaker, but Ambrose catches him and slams him down on the thumbtacks. There are thumbtacks all in Jericho's back as a holy shit chant goes out. Ambrose hits Dirty D's on the thumbtacks. Ambrose gets the pin to win the match. EMTs comes down to check on Jericho, who is screaming. A WWE Network Originals ad. Flashback to what has happened between Charlotte and Natalya. Charlotte and Ric Flair are shown talking backstage. WWE Women's Championship submission match. Ric Flair is banned from ringside. Charlotte versus Natalya. They lock up. Charlotte pushes Natalya in the corner and then breaks. Natalya with 2 headlock takedowns of Charlotte. Natalya goes for the sharpshooter, but Charlotte pushes off. Natalya with a leg vice. Charlotte counters. She adds a chin lock, but Natalya won't give up. Natalya with an inverted stun gun on Charlotte. Natalya gets a surfboard on. Charlotte corner whipped, but spins over and lands on the apron. Natalya with a discus clothesline. Charlotte rolls out of the ring. Natalya follows. Charlotte attacks. Natalya on the outside. Natalya runs Charlotte into the ring post. Both roll back into the ring. Natalya attacks Charlotte in the corner. Charlotte with a back elbow. She follows it up with a big boot to Natalya. Charlotte goes for the figure 8. Natalya counters into an armbar. Charlotte fights back and lifts Natalya up. She hits a powerbomb on Natalya. Charlotte concentrates on Natalya's leg to soften it up. Gets Natalya in sort of a reverse figure 4. Natalya makes it to the bottom rope to break it. Charlotte starts kicking Natalya. Charlotte with a suplex. Charlotte hits a moonsault on Natalya. Charlotte gets a half crab on Natalya. Natalya fights out of it and hits a German suplex on Charlotte. Natalya gets the sharpshooter on. Charlotte gets to the ropes. Natalya pulls her to the middle of the ring and puts the sharpshooter on again. Ric Flair's music hits. Dana Brooke comes out dressed as Ric Flair, distracting Natalya. Charlotte goes for the figure 8, but Natalya pushes off. Brooke gets on the ropes and tussles with Natalya, allowing Charlotte to attack her from behind. Charlotte gets the figure 8 on. Natalya finally taps. Ric Flair comes out to celebrate with Charlotte and Brooke. A Camp WWE ad. Flashback to what's happened between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns. WWE World Heavyweight Championship Extreme Rules match. Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles. Styles comes out to a pretty good ovation. Reigns gets a mixed reaction. They lock up and Reigns throws Styles into a corner. Goes for a charge, but Styles moves. They battle for position. Styles with a big right hand. Reigns throws Styles into the corner again and again misses a corner charge when Styles moves. Styles with kicks and right hands to Reigns, who finally grabs Styles' leg. Reigns with a series of arm shots to Styles in the corner. Reigns misses a right hand. Styles comes back with rights of his own. Reigns hits a high knee. Styles rolls outside and grabs a chair. Reigns knocks Styles down. He rolls Styles back in and grabs the chair. He goes to hit Styles, who rolls out of the way. Styles tries to drag Reigns out of the ring, but Reigns kicks him into the barricade. Reigns goes to hit Styles with the chair, but Styles moves and Reigns hits the ring steps with the chair. Styles slams Reigns into the German announce table. Styles hits a big shot to Reigns and starts tearing the English announce table apart. He clotheslines Reigns over the barricade into the crowd. They battle out into the crowd. Reigns runs Styles into some chairs. Styles runs a chair into the gut of Reigns and hits him with a right. They continue to battle in the crowd. They battle into the set that the kickoff panel used. Reigns slams Styles onto the table the panel used. A loud Roman sucks chant goes out. Styles hits a kick to Reigns' head. Styles hits the phenomenal forearm off the table on the Reigns. Styles runs Reigns into a barricade. They trade shots. They approach ringside. Styles runs Reigns into the ring post. Styles takes the padding off of the barricade and runs Reigns into it. Styles rips up the floor mat at ringside. He goes for the Styles clash, but Reigns fights out of it. Reigns slams Styles into the ring steps. Reigns tears the German table and picks Styles up to slam him through it, but Styles is fighting it. Styles goes for the Styles clash on the table, but Reigns knocks him off with the right hand. Styles falls over the barricade. He jumps over the barricade and rushes Reigns, who backdrops Styles onto the English table, which collapses. A "You Still Suck" chant goes out against Reigns. Reigns puts Styles back in the ring, but only gets a 2 count. Reigns with a big sit-out powerbomb on Styles for another 2 count. Reigns goes for the Superman punch. Styles ducks and backdrops Reigns, who lands on his knee. Reigns drives Styles into the corner. Styles suplexes Reigns into the corner, driving his knee into the turnbuckle. Reigns rolls outside. Styles hits him with a knee from the apron. Styles jumps onto Reigns from the apron, but Reigns catches him and bashes his head against the ring apron and the barricade. He throws Styles onto the Spanish announce table and it collapses. Reigns goes to spear Styles on the outside, but Styles moves and Reigns drives himself through the barricade. Styles puts Reigns back in the ring as dueling AJ Styles Roman Reigns chants go out. Styles goes for the nominal forearm and Reigns hits the Superman punch on Styles as he jumps on the top rope. Reigns then spears Styles to the outside. Reigns rolls Styles into the ring and Anderson and Gallows show up to attack Reigns. They do the boot of doom to Reigns. They put Styles on Reigns, but Reigns kicks out at 2. Gallows and Anderson grab a chair, but the Usos come down and attack Gallows and Anderson. They then superkick Styles and splash Styles. Styles kicks out at 2.5. Anderson, Gallows, and the Usos brawl on the outside. Anderson goes back in the ring and Reigns hits him with a Superman punch. Then one to Gallows on the apron. He goes for the spear on Styles, who counters and goes for the Styles clash. He hits it and gets a very close 2 count. Styles grabs a chair and puts it on the mat. He goes for a Styles clash onto the chair, but Reigns backdrops Styles onto the chair. Reigns goes for the Superman punch, but Styles hits the Pele kick. Styles hits the Styles clash onto the chair. The Usos pull Styles off of Reigns. Styles kicks them away, but only gets a 2 count. Styles attacks Reigns back with the chair. He then hits the Usos with the chair when they come into the ring. Styles has snapped as he hits Reigns and the Usos with the chair over and over again. Styles takes off his elbow pad and goes for the phenomenal forearm, but Reigns spears him in midair to get the pin. All of a sudden, Seth Rollins appears out of nowhere and hits a pedigree on Reigns. He picks up the title and looks at it as a holy shit chant goes out. Rollins raises the title to cheers as they sign off from New Jersey. Final thoughts. Not a bad way to spend a couple of hours. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.